justice for all. Good morning, one and all.
Morning.
Did everyone have a chance to look over the minutes?
I did, and I got one, I'll prove them, but I got a question either now or later.
Oh.
On, the conservation land, Haley.
That's the fund balance, that's
Yeah.
all that's left in it.
Okay, what's left in it?
So I figure I couldn't commit more than what we have in the fund balance.
Right, now, I see you also got land purchase on there too?
Well, because I didn't know that's what we kept putting before, or do you want me to take that off and just keep it for the Hannah building?
See, I don't see, originally I thought we had most of the land.
Well, we paid that $100,000 with the watershed one.
Yeah.
And then she had that $100,000 spending authority for that other year, but never paid at the end of the year.
Right.
So that went away. But we have to always transfer from general basic into that.
Okay.
Because that's not a levying fund.
Okay, cause I know, I was thinking they had at least 100 or even 150
Well, I
in there
was thinking she
for,
had 150, but her cash balance was only 130 because she didn't plan on spending that one year.
okay.
So unless you want me to transfer money with the budget amendment, we do
No.
our next amendment, we can transfer.
As for the building, that's, it's gonna happen someday.
So we can transfer when we know it's
Yeah.
going to actually happen.
That's a someday project. You
Yeah,
know,
because we haven't paid any expenses for it yet.
no, they haven't.
So I figure we're okay if I only commit what's in the cash.
I was just curious about that because like I said, well, I'm afraid that down the road we'll still end up having to paying for that Hart property.
That's what I don't know either, and if we do, we're gonna have to transfer money into it anyway. So we can amend it, or we're gonna have to do a budget meeting this year, probably earlier than planned with conservation, my department, and some other stuff, because we're getting some grant money, but we can't spend it unless we have the spending authority.
Okay, answer my question. I make a motion to approve the minutes as printed.
Second.
Okay, Tracy made the motion to approve the minutes, Gary seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Item 5, we discussed the Cedar Valley Ranch equity last week, but we didn't have it on the agenda to take action.
And I did speak with the auditors too.
I'm sorry?
I did speak with Ide Bailey on that, because Ide Bailey, another entity, does their audit for them too, so they were okay with that.
Okay, good, very good. You do recall
I do.
things with that last week, okay? So is there a motion to approve that as we discussed last week?
I'll make it then.
Okay, second. Okay, Tracy made that motion to approve the transfer of the Cedar Valley Ranch equity, and Gary seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Is that actually a transfer?
No, they actually
Because
won't,
they're
they
going
won't
to
be paying us
utilize it.
that, because they pay us that equity check,
Right,
so they'll
right.
just keep that.
Yeah, so it's basically a non-transfer. Yeah, okay,
We're just gonna let them keep it.
okay. All right, very good. And do we have another one we can do really, really quickly? I presume Ron's coming in here for item 8.
8 or 9, I'm not sure if you using that, but I
You said
have
last
that.
night.
Okay. What's the item 6? The handwrites for taxes on parcel.
Yeah, so
240.
those are for the county home and the service center,
Okay,
because as Larry explained to us, we're getting land rent off the Cedar Valley Ranch land, and then we're renting that office space at service center, so he prorated those tax amount. So, yeah, and I was kind of late on the ball, so we need to pay that before tomorrow, so I thought I'd do a handwrite today. I don't want to be late on the transaction.
That wouldn't look good.
So, and I don't know if I'll pay it all in whole or just do the first half. Yes, we'll see, but-
well, Gary made this motion to approve.
How much does it amount to?
Well, the county homeland is 1,053 a half, so 2,000 and 2106. What do we get for rent on that? Farm rent? Does it even cover that?
I don't know. Well, it should. I don't know, it's a couple $100 an acre out there, isn't it, that we get?
Yeah, I think so.
And
And isn't that, like,
I think it's little over 200 an acre.
yeah, and how many acres, wasn't it around 40-ish?
Yeah,
38.
I think so.
Yeah,
So
okay, so I mean, it
I
should
know we've talked
more than
about-
offset it.
that in the new lease, but you don't pass that off to the renter, do you? So I don't think so.
Well, Gary made the motion to approve the handwriting of those, payments.
Second.
And Tracy seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Alright.
Thank you. Morning, Steve.
Good morning.
Just in time, the two of you are up, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Same one from last
Same
night?
one. So here's the deal, guys. We were here once before, explaining to you that things are changing in the future as regards our funding streams. The biggest thing being that in the near future, we will no longer be able to rely on the DAEC for part of the funding for EMA. And you're aware of that. Everything has been ratcheted up a little bit because it's now closing 4 months. Everything has moved up 4 months sooner than before because the DAEC has already shut down in the storm. So,
Cooling towers or something.
yeah, the cooling towers got damaged. This is one thing we want to talk about this morning. So we're just here as an awareness thing. This was all discussed last night at our commission meeting. And basically the consensus was that we would like to see everything continue as is. So we know that's putting more of the burden on the county. So Scott's prepared our budget outlook for the next fiscal year. And we just want to make sure you're aware of this and talk.
We had expected, the last time we talked to you, we had expected like maybe even 25% of what we had been receiving from Dwayne Arnold in the next fiscal year, because we would have still needed to supported the offsite planning EPZ into September, October. That all changed. They'll be done by June. So there won't be any emergency planning zones or any support from them in the fiscal year 22 budget year. So we wanted to come over here early and just, again, show what the impact's going to be. So the second page is what is the current budget year. What I've got highlighted down at the bottom is the local share that was spent out of the Benton County taxpayers, the $45,899. Next year, this is a preliminary. There's still the last page, the fourth page is projected for fiscal year 22, what the local share would be without any money coming in from Dwayne Arnold, with some line items taken away because they were totally based on Dwayne Arnold support. Some of the other ones are not totally. I can lower some of them, but I can't zero some of them out because we still need to operate an emergency operations center and a program and exercises and training and all that goes along with it. So this is my first preliminary look, and it's going to be pretty close as to what it's going to take out of the local share. So it's about a $74,000 increase, which is basically replacing what they were putting into our budget on the revenue side. So it's not a huge surprise. Part of the fiscal year 22 also right now is the health insurance. Is I always publish a 20% increase in health insurance because I never know what it's going to be when we have to publish the budget. Usually by the time of our public hearing in January, we have those figures and then we lower it down to what it is. So what you're looking at is also hopefully an inflated look at what the health insurance is going to cause, but we don't know.
Yeah.
So it's, as of right now, in the end of September, it's my best guess look at what the impact is going to be. You know, as we talked about last night, a $74,000 increase is, if you would turn those numbers into a percentage, it would be huge. But we're also at such a low number that any increase is a huge percentage. You know, if I was dealing with $1 million budget and asked for $74,000 increase, there'd be a zero in front of the percentage. But But we wanna make you aware, we knew this was coming, and now it's coming a little sooner. Total impact coming a little sooner than we thought, because there will be no money next year coming from Dwayne Arnold to help support us. So we don't want you to have surprises.
One thing I will say is all the items in this budget are things that need to be done whether the DAEC is with us or here, or we're dealing with it or not. And I've been the commission chairman for 16 years. I have not micromanaged the budget. I have never had to. Probably in 16 years, I only ever asked Scott questions once or twice about a specific item in the budget, and that was it. Because he manages things that close. So, in order for the program to continue as it is, and in the last few months, we've seen what it can do for us. This is what has to be.
Haley, would any local option sales tax revenue offset some of this?
I have to look at the code, because we have to pay this out of our general stuff.
Okay.
Because it has to be shared on the tax statement. We definitely have to put that amount on there to show the public. So, I mean, you could ask, but I'm not sure either. Never had to come up.
Just trying to think where there might be a little fluff somewhere.
Yeah, because that'll be double on that.
Oh, yeah. That's a pretty good increase.
But like Steve said, if you need to do this stuff regardless.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
There was an article in the Gazette yesterday about Dwayne Arnold.
Was there?
And, supposedly it's gonna make electric rates cheaper by closing it. And I thought, oh, whatever.
You wanna comment a little bit on the sirens, maybe a little bit, and the other two?
Oh, sure. So the other part not factored into this budget is any money for any siren maintenance. We've had those discussions before. You haven't given a final answer yet because you don't have the information you need yet. So, but based on even what the commission talked about earlier through their survey and just what's been alluded to, I didn't include any of that in here because I'm thinking probably we're not keeping that siren system in place once Dwayne Arnold is shut down. So it's not factored in here. We had a monthly Dwayne Arnold meeting was last Thursday, and the manager there told us that corporate out of Florida is hoping to make a decision within the next couple of weeks of what the offer will be to Lynn and Benton County about the siren system. And then once that's made, then you as a board can make your decision as far as whether it's best to keep the siren system in place for Benton County or not, and what the potential costs would be. If the answer is yes, you want to keep the system in place, then the most likely logical place to fund that is through our budget, and so then I would have to redo that with that in effect, but I haven't put it in now. So,
Well, I live outside the siren.
Yeah.
And as I think about it, like Cannon Lake probably would benefit from having a siren.
and there are options with the system. So I'm gonna go best case scenario with this, that I'll put out there hypothetically that their offer to Lynn and Benton County is they will turn the siren system over to our counties for no cost. That's what I think is probably coming. So we'll just roll with that. I would like to be a good partner on the end going out, as Dwayne Arnold's always been a good partner with us. If they are willing to do that, I think we can do it through the commission, but I think we as a Benton County entity should accept that offer and take that system, because it's much easier for them to have one piece of paper signed saying, we've turned the system over to this government entity. Because Atkins, Shelburne, and Urbana still want sirens in their community. Instead of Dwayne Arnold having to work with those three separate entities, and how many do you want, 2, 3, or 4, which ones are they? If we just take the system, they write, we sign, we take it, and emergency management can turn around and turn those over for nothing to those 3 communities, the ones they want to keep, and then the rest of them we can dispose of. I'd just like to make it easier for them on the way out if that's the way they want to do it. Because otherwise it's a whole lot of paperwork for them to, one at a time, transfer these sirens. And that's again with the assumption then that we don't want to keep it in place and operate it. I'm just making that assumption right now. You guys haven't made a decision yet, but I think that's the way we're leading.
How many sirens we got?
35 in our side of the county. So it's not a big footprint when you consider the whole county population. I mean,
But how many are in these 3 communities?
well, there's one centrally located in each community, but we have them grouped. Let's see, Urbana has a group of, so if I activate Urbana, it activated 5 to catch the, and then Shellsburg was 4, and Atkins, I think, was also 5. But they may well only want to keep 2 or 3. I went, it was just a programming issue for them, so I went farther out. I would expect each community was probably going to keep 2 based on where they're located. Shellsburg may just keep the one right in town and just have 1. I haven't really gotten into detail with them yet as a city. But,
How much does it cost to move one of those?
about 5,000-6,000 based on previous movements,
Okay, so
relocations, I should say.
if in fact, like, well, Hannah and Mike only need 1,
Mm-hmm.
we could be into some real money
Oh,
by
yeah.
the time we.
Oh, quickly. Yes.
So if you move 2 into a community, does it still cost 5,000 or 6,000 each?
They won't have to move any of them. Urbana, Shellsburg, and Atkins are already there,
Right.
so they wouldn't have to, all they have to do is take over maintenance costs.
But if they chose to have a couple throughout their community,
But like, let's say Belle Plaine wanted to become an active participant, could they do that with 3 of them?
$5,000 a piece.
Would they have any
5 or
reason?
6 or whatever
Yeah.
it costs.
So Belle Plaine put in
Yeah,
some
Yeah.
fairly new ones.
yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
he was just using them for an
Sure.
example, and I
Right.
understand, but
right.
you know,
Because
it's gonna
not
cost
Auburn,
them like
Not
they said,
Auburn.
5,000-6,000 bucks.
not Auburn's probably interested, well, yeah, not Auburn is interested. Also, I know that for sure because they're still relying on a siren hooked to electricity that's like a World War II era siren, so they are interested. Yes, they would have to pay the cost to move it, and then any programming changes that has to be made to the radios inside of it, and then ongoing costs, like all the other cities are doing right now on their own. So,
So if we took possession of them, accepted those 35, and then offered them to the communities to move at their
at their
expense,
expense.
you
Yes,
know,
yes. We'd start with our own community. We'd start with any of our needs. Like I said, if you guys were interested as a county of getting some in the parks and we could make that work, then that would be the first offer. The second offer would go out to all the cities in the Benton County. And then the third offer would go out to any other governmental jurisdiction in the area that wants to come take a pole and a siren out of the ground at their expense.
and then those that are left,
Spares.
no plans.
There are a lot of different options. You abandon them in place would be the last case scenario because I really think those would, if I put it out across the state of Iowa that we have these available, I'm expecting them all to be gone. There isn't a siren that's more than 5 years old, and the batteries are charged off solar. They don't need electricity hookup, so you can put them anywhere. As long as you can get a radio signal to them to activate them, they can be out in the middle of nowhere without any electricity within miles, and they'll go off. So they're very, these are the, like I say, no more than 5 years old. So
Sure.
any community looking to upgrade or add would, they would see that as a huge, because brand new, installed, you're talking 30,000. Anything else?
The only thing I wanted to visit with you guys about was the hazard mitigation plan. And I talked with the commission about this last night. Scott and I have been going back and forth on this ever since the storm hit. Started out the month, I had been working on it, bits and pieces, over the summer, and I started out the month of August, basically with the month of August, my time budgeted to work on that plan. I had put out the information to the cities, things I needed from them. We had gotten the updated property value information from Larry, just like the week before August. Property values and census data are a big part of the plan. I don't know if you guys have looked that much at it or not, but so all the information was in the hands of the cities. Then August 10th happened. And since that time, everything has pretty much gone dead in the water, simply because I really don't know which way to go with this thing or what to do. The deadline is February 16th. I could complete it with the information I have and submit it. Everything's going to be inaccurate, because all the property values from what Larry had given me are going to change probably pretty substantially due to the storm, and we won't have census data information until the middle of next year. And also the cities that need to provide me some information for this are preoccupied with a whole lot of other things right now. We fired off an email to FEMA asking for some direction on this. My major concern, if the plan goes out of date and it's not submitted, my major concern is that cities would not be able to submit for hazard mitigation project grants. That's my major concern.
For the county.
Or the county, yeah. That's my major, I mean, ultimately, that's what people look to this thing for anyway. I don't care, they're looking for this as a means of justifying getting some well-deserved federal money for needy projects, for hazard mitigation. The biggest thing it'd be things like generators to run sewage plants and water treatment plants and community centers and things like that. Most obvious to us recently. So I'm just bringing this to your awareness. We're not sure what to do about this yet. But I've had a lot of time taken away from me when I could have been working on this, just because of what's happened.
Well, you're gonna have to use what information you have at hand at that time,
I could,
whether it's up to the minute or not.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
could
don't
do
know
that.
that you're gonna have a choice.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the path you want me to go down, we can start going that way.
They've gotta be smarter than doing nothing,
Okay,
don't you?
I'd agree.
okay.
That way the towns and that, everything will be,
But you said you wanted to refile it again in 2 years then
That's
after.
an idea that Scott's got.
So, yeah, my conversation with FEMA, hopefully yet this week, that I'm waiting for a reply back, is I'm asking for an extension. I don't know if they do that or not with a 5-year mitigation plan, so I'm finding out if that's a possibility to ask for like a year extension. And if that's totally out of the question, then yeah, Steve and I have already talked. He'll finish. We'll do it with the information that we have on hand.
Sure.
The biggest point we will concentrate on is we'll obviously make sure all the mitigation strategies are in, especially like the backup generator power is in every city in the county's mitigation strategy, because that is going to be the big one. So if we don't get the extension, what I would like our county to do then is in 2 years, just do a quick refresh, update, and a formal submission to FEMA for it again to get off this cycle where we're always gonna be the year of the census. When we turned this into individual hazard mitigation plans into the multi-jurisdictional countywide plan, it was just done that year without any of us looking ahead to how that schedule was gonna be. And we're always gonna be on that 5-year and then decade schedule where we'll always be fighting the census information. And it makes no sense going forward to continue to update that plan the year that the census is being taken and go 5 more years without updated census and demographic information. So that would be my recommendation if we can't get the extension this year and a new date, is that in 2 years, we do a complete quick update and a refile with FEMA to get off that cycle.
That
So,
makes sense.
yeah,
It would make sense to give you an extension.
it would, but that's probably why it won't happen.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I'm trying.
Well, appreciate you bringing this to our attention. It's gonna be a
Yes.
shock for us.
Yes, it is. It's, any increase is an increase, and that's why we wanted to come over here now, even at the end of September, now that we know those dates have changed, that we won't be getting any money in the fiscal year 22 budget. So I want to give you plenty of heads up. That's what we're looking at, and I'm still working. We have till the November meeting. That's what we vote on to publish at our November commission meeting, and I'll have some more fine tuning on this, but the rest of the fine tuning is hundreds of dollars here and there. It's not thousands, unfortunately. So,
Okay.
all right.
Very good. Thank you.
My major goal is I just wanna see the program continue as it is. That's my major goal. Not worried about so much about picking a dollar here or a dollar there, so.
Well, hopefully we can find places to pull those dollars from,
I understand.
other than just taxpayers' pockets.
I understand that, so, yep.
I think eventually we're gonna have a lot of property loss and a lot of tax loss.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I know it's coming because it did after 2011, and this is a bigger footprint.
Do you think your federal asking can increase, or is it just?
It's all a
based on-
formula. It's,
Okay.
yeah, it's all formula based, and the state pretty much, the feds they pretty much don't increase what they give to the states. They haven't for like 5-6 years. And at any given year, the state formula is based on how many commissions apply for it, whether you're a part-time or full-time coordinator. So if you're part-time, you get even less. So it's a decent formula. It's a fair formula. They cap even our largest, no one can get more than 39,000. So our largest 10 populated counties only get 39,000. So they have that factor in there for the smaller populated counties to not, otherwise, if it was wide open without a cap on it, the top 10 counties would be sucking up 90% of the money. So, but unless the feds increase to the state, then we won't see an increase at the local level. So around the 28,000 is pretty much where we've been for the last 5-6 years, is what we received through that grant.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for
Yep.
bringing this to our attention again.
Yep.
And this time with real numbers.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for the shot.
Okay. You're welcome.
As a fire chief, I never like getting blindsided by things, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't allow that to happen here either, so.
We appreciate it very much.
Very good.
Thank you,
Okay,
gentlemen.
thank you guys.
How are you doing?
How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. Yourself?
Good.
Good, very good.
What do you think? Make sure you talk to Ben today.
Okay.
Yeah, talk to you about something.
Does anybody know if county attorney's coming down?
I don't know.
Because he was quite interested in this at our last meeting. So
Wow.
Okay, well,
Is he on time?
pardon me? Oh, was it before that? Okay. Well, anyway,
It's your mic.
We need to get-
RC Tech.
on with it. Good morning, Mike.
Morning.
So, and
There are two Mike Days in the world. The consulting firm True North.
Hmm.
Our representative there is Mike Day.
My twin.
I think he's older.
well, Mike, we do have your quote.
Okay.
Is Ben coming over?
He is testing an election machine today.
Okay, all right. So we might as well be proceeding. You got your quote. Do you gentlemen want to see this again? And this is the judicial branch talking about local funding, all the codes, et cetera, if you want it. From what I understand, that quote was good for 30 days. It was dated August 5th. Is that correct? And obviously, we're beyond that. So that's our first question,
Okay.
whether or not this quote would be honored. And I believe it was also quote was going to be plus labor.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And which left us a couple question marks.
And, yeah, so first of all, yeah, the dating on that's fine. As far as the quote, it's a formality, we have to put that on in case there's price increases and that kind of thing, so. That part should be fine. As far as the labor component, I had not physically taken a look to see exactly where the locations were going to be. So I'm not sure, so from a wiring standpoint, I don't know how easy or how difficult it's gonna be. I'm somewhat familiar with the building, so I can imagine it's gonna be somewhat of a challenge. So the labor component really has to do with the wiring portion. The other labor for the actual hardware itself, we know that part of it, so that is included. That's just the unknown portion, which is the wiring, how long that's gonna take.
And the question did come up as far as the antenna for broadcasting. I presume your signal, how far that would, send a signal out. Did somebody outside tune in and listen, that type of thing?
Generally, it's for within 100 feet.
Okay.
And that's line of sight typically. Now, given the walls and the construct of the building, I wouldn't think that would be the case, but I can check on that. The potential would exist, I think, from floor to floor. So if I'm directly underneath, or directly above, that potential could exist. In which case, now these are a proprietary frequency that we have them set at. And so these come from the manufacturer tuned, and so it's really a point-to-point, like a closed circuit radio system that you might have for a dispatch. But supposedly, the technology would exist for that possibility.
Okay.
And I can check into that deeper to see what we can do to offset that. But,
I'm sorry, I'm unfamiliar with courtrooms. How many times would that, let's say somebody wanted to listen in on second floor, let's say they had the technology, how many times would the court have to turn it off to make sure that no one was listening?
Well, usually, like just for closed things that are like dissolutions or adoptions and stuff like that, most things are public record anyway.
Mhm.
So that shouldn't be a problem. And usually jury trials, they're open to the public. And of course, we wouldn't have, on deliberation, we wouldn't have anything turned on anyway, because they wouldn't want to be doing that, because because of COVID, we're deliberating in the jury room, we're not, so this way they can social distance while they're deliberating. But I don't see a problem with that. Because our office and this office is right below. I don't know if it would be that loud. I can't
I've
imagine.
never heard it. I remember when the metal detector used to rip it, we could hear that that was about it.
That's out, and then that's out in the hallway too, so.
So really, it's a non-issue.
I don't think it's an issue. I don't believe on those type of cases that they'll even use, I mean, like, cause it's usually just the parties close up front, they don't have to worry about having a jury trial and all these, bystanders, It's just the jury trials that we have an issue with, and the high profile cases. And those are public records, so.
Okay. Well, that solves a lot of problems right there.
Yeah.
I got two questions. One, I says, I have a little bit of problem with the 70% down payment before you start. That was one of my problems there. That's just me. And the second thing is that you suppose you could go up there and take a look at right now. I mean, you've done it enough.
Yeah.
I'd like to have some kind of a ballpark figure.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I just hate signing a blank check and say, yeah.
Here you go. Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I can take a look.
You know what I mean? I won't hold you to it, making you said,
Yeah.
but just an idea.
Yeah, I can get you a range on that. And then as far as like the terms, so again, these are our standard default ones, much like the 30 days. So we'll do typically we'll do then like a 35, 35, 30 or something of that nature and split it out. The first part would be due on signing, that's when we order parts, and then kind of go from there to stage approach. Something like this, they'll turn pretty quickly, I would think. I mean, we won't be here, maybe a couple of days getting this set up, depending on this room schedule and that kind of thing.
Is there court up there now?
Nope, not right now.
I can run up, take a look, and we'll finish.
Well, I think those terms would be more agreeable.
Yeah.
Something like that work.
If you wanna run up there, right?
You can stop back in here too, we got, free time in here.
Yeah, well, I can run up there now if you want.
That way we kind of got
Sure.
Would it
an idea what it would be altogether.
Yeah.
Would it be smart to have the maintenance man come along, cause he knows more about the building to help if he's got questions?
Probably
You know?
If Rick's available, I
Yeah.
think
Rick's
it,
Well, he's in the
Justin's
basement
here.
working right now, so I'm sure
Sure.
he could get away from,
Justin's here now.
I could call him right now.
sure. You're gonna call Justin?
I was gonna call Rick.
Rick wasn't here this morning earlier, but he might be back.
Well, either
I know
or.
Justin's here because Robbie Hardware's out there.
Okay. Well, does Justin know as much as Rick? As for the building?
I
Why?
think it's one of Justin's floors, isn't it? Doesn't Justin do their floor?
Mhm.
So he should. And then Rick does our floor. They switch floors between and that stuff.
Would that work for you to give us a ballpark on the
Yeah.
labor?
Yeah, I can do
Okay.
What would be the turnaround time if they decided to go with this? How long would it take?
Yeah, that's a good question. You're probably 30 days at least on the schedule. Take a look at that when I get back. I know
Okay.
the schedule is about 30 days out.
Yeah, I'll text him.
I'm hoping for no jury
Oh,
trials
I
in
got his
October.
number.
But I know we have one, I think we're having that one after Thanksgiving, like a 3 or 4 dayer, so.
Well, if that's the case, this should be in then.
Right.
So,
Now, I did have a question on this too. So, as far as the number of devices,
No, can
number
you
of
go in the courtroom or
microphones
is Rick
needed
here
and that
too?
kind of thing, and maybe it'll clear up when I go up and take a look at it. I think,
Okay, just Julie,
Barry
we have
had
the
mentioned
RC tech
like
guys
2 or
for the
3.
wiring.
I don't know if that's
Just had
I
questions.
can go with it too, cause I'll let you know where we kinda need them.
okay.
Well, no, I think they were just
And
gonna
I
have you
just
go
kind
in
of
there
showed
with
that
them.
part up in case
In
there's
case you have
an
questions on
additional
the
one needed
wiring
or
and stuff.
we've got too many there. So
I'm thinking at least one for the
Thank you.
judges,
Bye.
check desk, one for the, witness stand, and one for each of those attorneys' tables, probably, so that's 4.
4. Okay. Now, the ones we have on here, are a desktop style, just kind of a puck style,
Okay,
and it just sits there in front. It's angled this, back towards the speaker. You could have it between, say, like on an attorney's table, if you had a couple of people there or something like that. It'll pick up like on a 5 or 6 foot
radius of that microphone. So it's intended to be for 1 or 2 users and sit between a couple of users. Now, again, we'll take a look and see if that's sufficient. It's not like a lapel style or anything like that where people have to touch and handle it, but it is just a desktop mount. They're wireless. Those particular mics are
That's
just a battery operated.
Double A's?
They are. There's 2 different styles. There's AA and there's rechargeable. This one's a AA style.
And the rechargeable and more expensive?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. But you know that could be an option too.
Okay. Julie, would you go along with him?
I think she said she was going to.
Justin said he'll meet up here.
Okay, sounds good.
Would you be able to stop back down to the
Yeah.
ballpark for us?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Mike.
You bet.
Thank you, Julie.
I just
We'll see you shortly.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Get your morning charge.
Do Ron's stuff while he's in here, maybe?
Yep.
That sounds like an evil laugh. Is it? He says yes.
Well, depends how much charge he had.
Uh-huh.
This is regarding item 8.
Number 2.
Yeah, you have.
Ross is
Ross.
putting Lydia on. Date, acknowledge. That's it.
Did you get a chance to look that over, Gary? That, okay, this is item 8. Ron, you wanna throw that at us?
We would like to put Lydia Close works part-time kitchen staff. She had also applied for communication specialist. The next piece on the agenda would be kind of self-explanatory. Ross Hanson's had some changes in his life. New baby coming, expanding their farm operation. He had to make a little room somewhere. And we would like to start training Lydia.
She'll basically take his place.
Yep.
That's
We
kind of the way I
know-
was putting it together.
We know in the dispatch world, you could get quite a bit of training into somebody and it can just become apparent it's not their thing.
Mhm.
And that has happened. But you don't know with somebody until you try.
So we will need to accept a resignation for Ross Hanson of the Benton County Sheriff's Office and dispatcher as a communication specialist. And then in a separate motion, approve Linda Close as a part-time communication specialist. And she's gonna maintain her position as in the kitchen as
Yep.
well. So,
Guess I'll move that we accept.
Ross's resignation,
Yeah.
okay,
Second?
all right. Gary made the motion, and Tracy seconded to accept the resignation of Ross Hanson All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And is there a motion to approve Linda Close as a part-time communication specialist?
So moved.
Second.
Tracy made that motion, Gary seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anything else, Sheriff?
I'm gonna put a bid out to replace a car that had a grain bin. Roll over it. I'm behind on cars. We've had some real difficulties here recently, but it'll all come out.
I figured it was probably totaled, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's already heading for the junkyard. We got a check for 44 something, 44.75, and then the insurance adjuster did not want to reuse any of the electronics, which we didn't want to either. So insurance will be paying for all new radios and camera and everything that goes in a car.
Good.
I was gonna do 2 last year, 3 this year, new vehicles. That would get us pretty much on track. So we're gonna end up doing 3 this year, and hopefully we can just stretch the rest of what we got, because our 2 last year didn't come till this year. So hopefully we've spent some money on repairs that we generally don't do, but hopefully it'll work out.
We had a question last week with the claims. We had a pretty good size one, like $1,800. I think wasn't that a Tinkles? Do you recall what that was for?
Several breakdowns. Like 3.
So it was different vehicles?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. So it wasn't just a vehicle?
No, it was like 3 of them.
Okay, good.
Plus, there would have been normal service on several in there too.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of a sticker shock.
Well, because we were kind of trying to guess if that was from the storm damage, and I thought 1,800 would be pretty minimal for grain bin rolling over on it.
No, that one, that had the top come down and.
I don't think of it. You don't wanna park in certain places.
You never thought that grain bin would come down.
No, you never thought that. So.
At least I wouldn't have.
And we park
Item 10, pay taxes.
in a place and then
So,
we went
here's
home.
all those right-of-way ones. That
Bring
was
back
from the
the
county we took acquisition.
You wouldn't
A lot of them don't have it.
Highway 30.
Well, it's a bad time of year, most of
That little
the
bit, and next year.
Yes, sir.
So, in total, I said it was like 328 all those, that we paid all those.
$28
And then that last parcel number is, building on lease land.
on lease land.
Yeah, building on lease land, so that was Melinda's recommendation. So I'd probably do 2 separate resolutions, because it's different code sections. This is 445.63 for the government
So
continuation.
is this the very last one on here?
It's that
I
one.
don't have.
Talk to Ben.
Yes. Talk to Ben and text Nancy.
Oh, okay.
But I would do that
See
one.
where that was our
Building on lease
insurance
land.
money, because the radio guys would like to get some.
No, this one is.
They've got to get
Okay.
it scheduled for
Those are all,
tower
that's
crews
why I would do 2 different resolutions.
Where are we?
to go up before they can replace the work and stuff.
I don't remember, it was one that we did last
About
year too.
100,000.
Okay, which is basically a postponement.
Insurance on that
Yeah, so
too?
I don't know why it's still on the tax roll then.
Yeah, we don't.
But I thought it was
There's
one
not
that
that
stuck out.
many that much stuff. So, how you getting along?
You know, that's this new one.
Oh, we're doing fine.
Okay.
We just
We don't want it.
switched some vehicles. I got a guy running around and one with no markings on it. I don't like that, but it's okay.
Alright, I don't mind it.
No. may try to utilize that a little more.
Mm-hmm.
I just soon have everything say sheriff on the side,
Mm-hmm.
but we do have one.
These are right of way abatements. Most of them are along Highway 30.
Are you staying for May coming in too? For
I will be back. What time is she on?
the 10.
I'll go talk to Ben,
Yeah, he should be in there because he was trying to text.
and then I gotta talk to Nancy about the insurance claim to see where all that is, because the radio shops wanna get tower crews lined up to come out here and fix more broken stuff.
Makes sense.
We're about 100,000 damage.
I think we got that one check already, so you guys will have to keep it. I did apply for that FEMA stuff.
Okay. And I know we got the check for the car.
Yeah.
And
That
then,
would combine with Myron's.
and then we did get a check, Lindsay applied for a small grant for the school resource officer for, first aid equipment. And we got that. And then we're gonna try to do another one for automatic external defibrillators for patrol cars. And see where that comes out.
Very good. Well,
I'll be back.
we'll see you
at 10.
shortly.
Yep.
Thank you. Those are abatements for the right of way primarily along Highway 30.
And then we'll delete them out for next year for sure, but for this tax year, we had to do them two parcels.
Does anyone know, is Myron, getting any money from anywhere to replace signs?
He filed his own FEMA,
So he did file.
and then conservation had to do their own, and then I had to do it, because we'll handle the courthouse and then the sheriff.
He's replacing a tremendous amount of signs. I don't know how much that's costing, but it's just the signs alone, it's gonna cost.
Make a motion to abate them.
Second,
All right.
On the apply resolution for.
your shank eye.
Seaman, aye.
And Primer aye. Now, we've got a parcel, which is a building on leased land that we need to abate.
So I'll do them two separate, because I'll
And so
mention different codes.
we did this last year as well.
For BLL. Building on lease land.
What's that?
Building on lease land.
Okay. So I need a motion to abate that.
So moved.
Second.
Get that down. Tracy made both motions. Gary seconded both. Okay. So this is by resolution.
Your shank eye.
Seaman, aye.
And Primer aye. Roll number.
These were all like only $286 worth.
Item 11, acknowledge grant funds awarded by Center for Tech and Civic Life.
Yeah, so I applied for, this is in addition to the CARES Act, and in addition to the one from Secretary of State. So all the other counties were applying for this. It says, for the public purpose of planning and authorization of safe and secure election administration in Benton County. So I did apply for that, and I awarded $7,728. So I can use this towards my temporary election workers. So like right now I have 2 people extra in there helping mark ballots and stuff. So I feel like I can justify all that with this money.
Nice.
So again, that's why when we start getting these grants, we're gonna have to amend our spending authority because you can't use it unless you have spending authority. And if we're okay on the spending authority, then this is just cushioning back our fund balance, so.
Nice. So we need a motion to
Yep,
acknowledge
acknowledge
those grant funds.
And then I'll sign it and
Okay.
submit it.
So Tracy made the motion to acknowledge the grant funds and Gary seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So Mike will be back down.
I also think I was awarded the medical center one
You were?
too. Yeah.
How much is that?
1,800 maybe, so it'll help recoup some of the cost to send those 2 new ones to the training and stuff.
Nice. Very good. Thank you for doing that. Any reports?
Had an EMA last night. Easy Cog and East Central Housing last week, but I did not attend. That's about it.
I'm the only person that's attended the regional meetings for the
That's mental health,
yeah,
I think, regional mental health.
and
The regional governing board?
yeah, I'm the only guy attending. Everybody else is doing it via,
Zoom.
yeah.
Where are those held at?
What's that?
Where are they at?
Camp Courageous. It's about 70 miles. And, they're not as robust as they used to be, when everybody attended.
Makes sense.
Our chairman is up for election, and he did not make the primary. He's been our chairman for 4 or 5 years. So,
Last I heard, because he runs Republican, right?
I think so.
Last I heard, because he didn't win that, I thought he was going to run Democrat. So,
He's running independent, I think, and he's kind of on his own. I don't know how it's gonna work out. But he does a good job as chairman, he really does. I think he's been our chairman since the region was formed. I'm not sure. But just normal business.
Well, I like Tracy. You know, it's hard to be in 2 places at once. I had a prior commitment. There was a Zoom meeting for HACAP. I'm anywhere close to a computer. So,
Yeah, it's hard for me to, well, they got all these screens on the screen, and it's
I did
sometimes hard to hear.
I did visit with Roger Rouse, and had him look at the roof after the winds. Remember the air conditioners that were shifted? He did find a couple seams that need to be tended to. I said, get them fixed. That's maintenance. So that's things that need to be taken care of. So just for a heads up. That's at the service center, of course.
Those air conditioners that shifted, they didn't tear any holes in the roof?
Evidently not, but while he was up there, he saw some seams that needed some attention. He said, I can patch it, you know, throw some caulk on it. He said, but it makes sense to get in there and fix them right. So that's how I related. Do it correct. Do it right the first time.
I'm not positive, but on the building over there, they're gonna pour the rest of the cement today.
And there's still some concerns about getting a tree down over there.
The one on the south side or
I think it's
between the 2 schools?
between the 2 buildings, yeah. Well, there's one that's up, but I think there was one that had some limb damage or such. You know, that's the one they're concerned about, getting that taken care of. So,
You don't have
again,
enough to do, do you, Tracy?
well, I think they visited with Merlin Graham, and, you know, again, there's hot irons in the fire everywhere, and you just gotta wait your turn.
Cause there's a lot of branches that went down between the building and old school produce building, you know, and they're just laying there, and I haven't had time, so
Okay. That's all I had.
May should be hearing that.
Yep. And the sheriff's coming back in for this as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, Lindsay was asking if it was something she should be here for. I was like, I don't think so, but I guess you're welcome to sit in case it is.
Balance stuff.
Speaking of unbalanced stuff, when like Tony and our walls get redone, is that where the materials come out of? Okay,
Probably.
I was not
Because I
sure.
think they approved what's there now, so I would assume they would.
Well, and I didn't know, Sarah and I were talking about it, and I didn't know where the original wall money came from, like if it had, I didn't think it had been budgeted in, so I didn't know if it came from fund balance.
That's up to you. It was when Todd was still here, actually. So it's been, when we originally got that building and moved on, so, yeah, it did come out originally.
Okay.
So are you thinking of redoing it
Like the, similar to the access center.
Okay.
I know Tracy and I had talked about it before, you know, your entire property disappeared.
So are you gonna use the walls that are there and then just drywall up the ceiling, or how are you gonna do that?
I don't know until I get into it.
Okay.
I don't know if they are 2x4s. I am guessing that them walls are 1x4s.
I wanna say they're 1x, but
That's
I
what I'm
don't
guessing.
They don't look
remember.
thick enough.
Because if they're 1x4s, then I'm almost saying we're gonna,
I have to redo the whole thing.
yeah,
Time will tell.
yeah. But I don't wanna say one way or another
Because I
until,
know they were built so that we could move them
Right. Because we were unsure
at the time. what
at
was
the
going
time,
on.
and it turns out it's pretty good arrangements. You know, they're just not quite as substantial as we had hoped.
and see, that's what, the other thing I was looking at, the ductwork, if we could maybe move that, I call it the center wall, your hallway, if we could move it one way or another. I don't wanna make your rooms any smaller, but on the same token, I don't wanna make that hallway too small, cause I really don't wanna move the ductwork.
Well, realistically, I mean, you're looking at maybe this much space to be able to move that wall in towards our desks. And then be able to for the actual one that goes into our office, to be able to cut a hole in the drywall. So, I mean, you're looking at less than 2 feet to take out of our offices. And, I mean, it's not like we're throwing dance parties in there. We've got 2 feet of playroom.
As long as you're okay with that.
Yeah, because I feel like moving it out this way, I mean, that's not realistic, because you're gonna end up having to move all the ductwork. The only way to do it is to go in 2 feet.
Let's see, then the other thing that we're gonna get into is lighting. The lighting goes
I think they
east
did
and
that
west, and
because
we'll have
of
to put new
walls.
lights in it.
Mhm.
'Cause we don't wanna use them old ones.
Didn't do the ductwork
Because in
after
the
wall.
classroom,
Yes.
in the rooms that we did before, the wiring comes in, the switches are on to the, what I call the east side of the building, but the leads come in from the west side of the building, which did not make sense to me, but I didn't build it, so.
So, but honestly, I mean, where the ductwork is, we shouldn't have to move any of the ductwork. That should be able to, and you're the contractor, so I could be completely speaking out of turn here, but we shouldn't have to move any of the existing. We should just be able to cut around, like a round hole, and run it through, and then it can.
Well, don't get your hopes up, but I don't foresee it happening or starting until January, until there's snow on the ground. 'Cause
Do
I
not.
got enough,
Do not worry. I was asking just so I knew, like,
it gets
if I needed
cold.
to, when I do the budget in December,
Mhm.
if I need to
Yeah,
put stuff in there. So no, our walls will be just fine until you can get there.
but yeah, I think that's a good idea to put it in there for next
See, that would be another option if we wanna try, if I cannot salvage them walls, do we wanna try to peddle them? 'Cause I mean, you got a lot of money in them rooms.
Yeah.
And that's what they're supposed to be made to do.
Yeah, I know it. I don't know if
Maybe
it'll
they
be
could
able to
even
get.
buy back.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
I think they had a hard time making them, like, because the ceiling's going.
That was,
I have no clue
How
what
many
kind of
times they
demand there
measured,
would be.
remember?
Yeah, that's,
Yeah,
they
I think
didn't
it
really
might be.
measure, they came
we
in
had
with
it
their
with the
cardboard
conservation that they wanna
scissors,
get rid of them,
Tracy had to-
literally,
He had to fix the door, I don't know how many times.
pieces of cardboard to
them
measure,
round
and then they tape them together.
canvas dealies.
Oh, those
Trying to
yurts.
think what they call, huh?
Yurts.
Yeah, that's what
Okay,
they call
so
Hi.
Yeah.
Haley, you and I will have to get
They
together
wanna,
there on,
you know,
like,
and
how
they
that
got,
goes into the budget.
they cost, yeah, they
Under
cost
there, so.
28,000
Yeah.
for
And
them.
I
And
think we just have the region approve it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
Yeah,
like an
you try to
estimate.
get $10
Just
out
let
of
me
it.
know
Probably
how
the
many it's in.
cost that we spent on that other room.
Well, those are significantly smaller offices. though.
Right. Well, Tracy can give us an estimate.
So, but we shouldn't have to worry about that until January, right?
Right.
Like the budget stuff. or
Yeah,
The fund balance stuff.
it has to be done by March, so.
Okay.
We got
Then
time.
yeah. No pressure, Tracy. You get to it when you get to it. You have much bigger fish to fry.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Sorry, I was waiting on your security downstairs.
Oh, it
Pretty
wasn't.
tight. Pretty tight. And they're rebooting the computers, and so the
Mhm.
lady ahead of me was waiting to confirm her appointment. And I was like, "I'm on the supervisor's agenda. Can I please just go in?" So I finally got in,
Fine.
and I jumped the line. So the poor lady in front of me is still waiting.
He didn't shake you down about your mask? You got a mask?
I
Put it
yeah,
on.
he asked me to put it on. Am I okay if
Yeah,
I'm this
yeah.
far away? Okay, good.
That's why I'm
Good.
sitting over here, so I'm like,
Right?
big
Well,
bubble, big
yeah.
bubble. And I already had it once, so I should be.
She
I don't,
survived.
I survived,
was-
and I have no cooties to share with anyone, so.
I was very sure I had it in December before everybody else got it because I had all of those symptoms and I was so sick. And I usually don't get sick, and I was so sick. And I was like, I'm sure I had it already. And I had the antibody test in August, and it came back negative.
Well, they don't know for sure how long it's going to
Exactly,
be.
that's what they said.
Yeah.
Like maybe only 90 to 120 days. I was like 8 months out.
Yeah.
So I was
Well-
like, maybe the antibody had left my body. So I'll never know.
No, my mom.
You were in the same room with me though, 2 days before I tested positive. I mean, all day long,
Mhm.
without masks, because, you know, we were like across the table from one another.
Yeah. We were 5 feet,
Yeah.
maybe.
There was a computer in between us as well, but, yeah, but she, and everybody in my house, nobody ever got it. I was the only one.
Yeah.
Nobody did. So, I don't know.
Right. All right. So I'm happy to be back. What's gone on in the last 8 months or so since I last visited? Anything of significance, right?
That's right, you just took over when you came in last time, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think I was here in January. It was very cool.
How do you like the new duties?
Good. Yeah. I feel like I think I was just telling Gary maybe last month, you know, I'm like feeling like I'm finally settled in and kind of know a little bit what I'm doing. So getting a handle on
Great
everything.
job.
I took the chair around.
What's that?
the corner.
I think you're doing a great job.
Oh. Thanks, Gary.
You got any cooties if you're looking through?
No.
So today is mostly just friendly visit update on the region and what we've been doing. So first of all, last winter, not long after I saw you last, I started working with a young man who had just graduated with a marketing degree from Iowa State. He's a friend of my daughter's. And I worked with him to rebrand the region. So we went through this process of new logo, new colors, both for print and for media. So we are redoing our website right now. So the whole new branding with the colors and the logo, some imagery that we like that kind of portray the heart of the region. So we did that, and we did that very purposely because then I wanted that to be reflected in our new strategic plan. But before I get to that, from the regional perspective, the branding that we did with our new logo, and now with our CARES Act dollars, I have come with gifts. So this is the new logo for the region, and these are our colors, sage, blue, and gray. So, for the supervisors, I'd like to offer you a mask for the region, and I have one for you and Sarah. Sheriff Tippett, I can probably give you one too if you'd like it. Alrighty, Gary, I'm gonna let you pick first.
Oh, I don't care.
Pick a color.
Might match your shirt today.
Well, no, match your shirt.
Ooh, they
You
both,
want one
oh,
that
you
matches
guys
your
also
shirt,
have
Tracy?
a
Yep,
blue.
alrighty.
Because they all have a blue.
I'll take that one.
Alrighty.
No.
And I've got more colors. I mean, I've got more, if you want green,
Thank you very much.
that for Sarah.
Thank you.
I'll be bringing them Thursday, so if you want to change it out Thursday for a different color, you can. So, lots going on with CARES Act. I didn't really put that on the agenda, but I can talk about it if you like. In February, once we had the branding completed, we worked on a strategic plan. So, previous strategic plans for the region were in a binder that was about 1 inch thick, and they had lots of words and they had lots of numbers, like goal 1 and objective 1.2 and action step 1.3, 4, 5, and 6, and all that kind of stuff. And what I really wanted to do was to create a strategic plan that was a lot more user-friendly. I wanted it to be something that Gary, as our regional governing board member, could kind of hang on to, could talk about with his constituents, and also for you guys to share with you so that you just really have a sense of the direction that the region is going. So I have those for you too. See, I come with all these gifts today. You can pass them around. So on the top is the, how about if I keep one for myself?
There you
So
go.
I can talk about it. Yeah, thanks. One of the very first things that we did in developing the strategic plan is with the coordinators, we spent a couple of meetings working on our values for the region. Like, what is it that we value? And we had some drafts of the value statements that we thought were important for the staff of the region. And then I brought those to the regional governing board in February. And we did both mission, vision, and values. So on this, which is the trifold, this is the one we're going to look at first. And I hope there are extra copies because I wanted to leave some for you as well. So on the back of this page, you see the mission, vision, and values. So this was just a process that the regional governing board and I stepped through on that day in February to talk about what they really thought was the mission and vision of the region. I want to tell you that when I interviewed for the job, September, some of the things that I had pulled down from the website that were like the region's annual service and budget plan and the region's management plan. Both of those documents are a bit dry. They're templates that are mandated by the Department of Human Services. In reading through those documents, I remember saying to the board when I interviewed that I didn't really get a sense of the heart of the region and the humanity and what's really important to the region. So I wanted to be very clear that we defined that, about the things that are important to us. So that's what went into that work of the mission, vision, and values. So you see those. If you open it up, we have the nice little map of our region. And then if you open it up all the way, this is the entirety of the strategic plan. Now, I have lots of documents that back this up. I've got a file folder full. But this is how I wanted to have a strategic plan that was a livable document, that was usable, that we could all talk about very easily. I'm not going to go through every single one of the outcomes. You can read those yourselves. But I want to point out that we have 5 very broad goals. And they're broad on purpose because on the very front page of this trifold, it says that this is a 5-year plan. So I wanted the goals to be broad enough that we can work on them for the next 5 years. So we have, okay, there. So our first goal is access. And access can mean a lot of different things, right? Access can mean transportation. We are a geographically spread out region, so we want to make sure that people have the transportation to get to the services they need. Access can mean timely. When we were working on implementing children's services for the region, we had a lot of people tell us that for children especially, it could be 3 or more months before they got their child in to see a mental health practitioner. That's an access issue. We don't want children who are suffering to have to wait that long. So that's an access issue. So we have goals around access, that people, the service enrollment and initiation, that people can get into services in a timely manner. crisis delivery is part of access to make sure that we're getting crisis services to people when they need them in a crisis. So, and kind of, you know, some of the array of services across the region. And we move on to the next goal, which is array of services. And this was our attempt to put it in writing, our intention that the region now funds services for adults and children. Mandated by law that July 1st of this year, we had to start providing services for children. We have 5 services that we had to implement this year, 5 more that we have to implement next year. So we wanted to make sure that we said, we'll comply with the law, we'll do the right thing, we'll pull in children's services, and that we'll be innovative in developing those services. We also have some new services that have been mandated to us for adults. The complex needs bills, you know, intensive psychiatric services that we have to implement as well next July 1st. So we're saying that we're going to do that. We also talk about awareness of brain health issues, trying to reduce the stigma around accessing brain health care. The one in the middle is effective partnerships. We as the region want to be a good partner. And we specifically call out in this area our partners in law enforcement, healthcare, and education. And we say that we'd like to reduce the burden on them, right? Sheriff Tibbet can talk about the burden on law enforcement when someone is suffering a brain health issue. Education, right? How many teachers and principals can you talk to say the same? That we have children in schools who have lots of needs. And so we, as mental health and disability services providers, can help to reduce the burden on them, healthcare as well. So we talk about that we partner with our agencies, that we make sure that our services are, you know, innovative, co-occurring, trauma-informed, which are kind of the buzzwords of the day, and that we have access centers and access hubs, part of an access, but also making sure, because that relieves some of the burden on law enforcement and on healthcare when we have our access centers and our access hubs in our region. The next one, which is fiscal responsibility. This is one of the longer ones because the Regional Governing Board, as I'm sure you know, feels very strongly about their responsibility to the taxpayers of the region. So we have a goal around that we are responsive to the taxpayers as well as the people who need our services. Here we talk about being transparent with our budget. We want to make sure that people understand our budgeting process, where we're going in the direction and why we're going there. That we leverage other funding when it's needed. So for example, when people have services that should be paid for by Medicaid, that we make sure that Medicaid pays them. Because sometimes it's just a little too easy for people to come to the region because we're more local. But we say, no, that should be Medicaid funded. You need to go talk to the managed care organizations. You know, make sure that we're doing that when we need to. That we set our per capita every year as well. But we put that in there. Of course, we want to comply with that. That we balance the funds available with our priorities. We'll talk about priorities in a minute. And that we have a balanced budget every year. It's my understanding that our budget has not been balanced in previous years, getting started as a region and figuring things out. But this last year, it's budgeted, balanced. We want to make sure that we keep it balanced. And then the last one is the cohesive region. We want to make sure that the East Central region is strong and that we all continue to work with the best interest of the region in mind, rather than just pockets of providers or pockets of counties, that we want to make sure that we're thinking about us as a region. So, any questions on that really fast strategic plan? All right. So then this page that you see that I handed out is, the goals are very broad, 5 years, and very broad. So every year, I'm going to ask the Regional Governing Board to set priorities. So we intentionally chose the month of May each year to do that because the legislative session should be wrapped up. This year it wasn't. They came back after our May meeting, but that was a little weird. Generally speaking, in May, we'll know where we're at as far as if there's new policy or new funding formulas that have been passed. So each year in May, we will set priority initiatives. And what I consider these are our marching orders. Mine and the coordinators and the social workers, like these are our marching orders. These are the things that we will work on, that we'll put, you know, a lot of effort into this year in order each year to do that with priorities to eventually get us to our bigger goals. So So it helps to make that very, very broad plan down into something very specific, so we know these are our assignments. I should have brought, but I didn't. So the status key that you see on the left-hand side, and then the little bubbles in front of each priority initiative, each quarter, and Gary can share it with you, each quarter I'll give an update to the Regional Governing Board on how we're doing on those priority initiatives. So I just did that last week, and I haven't printed off a bunch of those yet, but we have, our progress indicated. Not a whole lot, because, the pandemic has been interesting, and CARES Act, and getting our feet steady with that, but I hope the next quarter we'll have more progress on those priority initiatives. So that's kind of what we've been doing. Any questions, comments, thoughts on that? Any comments on how you see Benton County fitting in?
With that,
Awesome. One of the things that you see in there is balancing, balancing the needs of our smaller and our larger counties, right? We have a big difference, a variety of populations within the region, lots of variety, and so we want to look at things equitably. Not every county gets the exact same thing, but every county should get what it needs. And so those are the things that we're really working on. And if you have ideas of things that you think need to be addressed in Benton County that are not, I would sure appreciate hearing about them.
When you're out in the field too, you guys notice an increase in any of the services because of COVID?
Or the dredge up.
Yeah, or the dredge, yeah, I guess both.
The tragic death of a child a couple weeks ago.
From the dredge.
No, the young lady who hit the school bus.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, I was very worried about the school.
I know, and then
I mean,
he was on the bus drive.
Yeah, and her classmates and whatnot, so I had got in touch with the school that day and offered if we could get some counselors in, and thankfully the school had already contacted Grant Wood, who's really great about that, and we're sending counselors out, because we want to make sure we get some counselors in the school that day. That was horrible.
So, but yeah, I mean, we're seeing initially there was a decrease in people going like into the hospitals and into the RCFs and things like that. And now the longer it has gone on and the more isolated people are and the services aren't coming back just simply because a lot of stuff is still closed down, we're seeing a rise now in hospitalizations and RCF requests and things like that, just simply because people who were going to day have, people who had all of these services in place now can't get anything face to face. And I know one gentleman is like an older guy that he doesn't have a computer, he doesn't, so he can't do any of these telehealth things. So he was just, and every day he had a specific routine. He did this, he did this, he did this. And, we tried RCF for a month and then he got back out and within a couple weeks he was back in the hospital because he was still isolated. So that kind of stuff is definitely, and I think there was a significant uptick in like the warm line and things like that. And because the hospitals don't want to keep people, I know with Shelby, with the liaison, they've got one, you might know the exact number, I want to say they've had in the last month, probably over 30 calls on this guy. They've taken him to, I don't even know how many different hospitals, and they're just like, nope, sorry, can't do nothing, and they just send him on his way, and they just keep getting called and called and called, and so I think they finally got somebody to do something, but there's been a lot more of that. So,
Sheriff, the Rural Access Center has worked out very well for you, hasn't it?
yes,
Is that sufficient space over there?
yes.
Okay. Now, I think at one time you were talking about maybe even opening up a branch in Belle Plaine area,
Yes.
but that was before the pandemic and,
So everything's just been
So-
put on hold.
of course, yeah.
There,
I was gonna say, do you think there's still going to be a need to be doing that?
One of our, right now, and it changes, right now, one of the high call people is from Belle Plaine.
Okay.
And we were looking at a part-time, maybe 2 days a week, still giving people, they could come in, help them get hooked up with services they need, have it so people can just drop in, you know, if they have questions or whatever. I know there is still a group in Belle Plaine that would like to see that happen, but we're
Not
just kind of
till
in a
after.
holding pattern.
Not till after things get settled down, sure.
One of the partners, the collaborative things he talks about in here, super important. Without doing that, you really can't move forward and get much anything done. I mean, we work with the Legion, we work with Foundation too. The list of people that we work with to get all this accomplished, I don't even know them all anymore. But it does work.
Good.
I will guarantee that it works.
Have you seen this type of rural access center that we have spring up in other counties?
Well, if you look at the priority initiatives, we do talk about exploring the idea of access hub type location in one of the other counties, in at least one more access hub in the region.
Sure.
Let me say it that way.
Yeah, I've
So,
seen that in there.
Yeah, right. And I'm gonna be very honest with you. Highest priority right now is not another one in Benton County. Not that I'm opposed to it, but it's a good model, it's a great model, and I would like to replicate it in county, you know, other maybe more rural counties that don't have anything like that right now. So I'm certainly not opposed to it down the road, but that wouldn't be the highest priority at this time. We have a lot of interest in Dubuque County. Not a terrible amount of movement. There have been a lot of discussions,
Yeah.
and I think that there's kind of a core group of people who really support it and would like to see it going. It just kind of needs to gain a little traction, and everything right now has lost all its traction.
Yeah.
So, you know, I suspect that would maybe be our next one. And honestly, I would really like to kind of look at Bremer County as well. You know, a county that's a little bit further away, you know, from other things. I know they're close to Waterloo, but further away from other things in our region. Once again, you know, a smaller county that I'd like to see a model very similar to what we've done here in Benton County up there.
The co-responder and the, I like the word point better than hub, but that's just me.
Okay, point. We just can't call it center.
Right.
So I like point, that's fine.
I saw that on there, so it's just for the rural access.
Yes.
But not for the service centers.
Correct. Correct. The co-responder model and the access point tie together so well is what, that's one of the big pieces to our success with it is they're able to exchange information back and forth, and it's worked very well. Even it does take finances to run it, but in the end, our number of emergency committals that law enforcement do is way down. And that's our goal.
Sure.
In regards to like long-term sustainability, Lindsay and I are working on, so it's a couple year process, but she's got to get licensed and then I can do all of her supervision to get her independently licensed so that she can bill for services. Because right now they don't have the ability to do that, and so to be able to kind of fiscally sustain at least some stuff.
Sure.
That is in
Makes
the
sense.
works. So just want you guys to know that is
She's been studying.
it's a stretch, but yes, it's once it's done, then it'll make fiscally things easier.
Questions or comments, gentlemen?
Go ahead, Tracy, if you got some.
Go ahead. The only thing I wanted to know is Benton County is the only one that has the access center of these 9 counties.
The only one in the
Benton County is
state.
Benton County is the only one in our region who currently has an open access point. Lynn County and Johnson County are working on opening access centers. the dates keep getting pushed back. Lynn County is now anticipating soft opening about the third week in October. They have been hoping October 1st. Probably for sure opening November 1st. And Johnson County GuideLink is the name of that access center, and they had planned January 4th. I just heard yesterday, now they're looking at February. So,
But aren't these actual buildings that they were putting up? That's why
Benton
you would
County
call it a
remodel.
center.
well, part of it is it's not so much the physical location that calls it a center, it's the services, all of the services that are available there or through an MOU, an agreement. So there are some regions in the state who have not built bricks and mortar, who have all just paper agreements, and working relationships to make it work. So, but Lynn County remodeled a building and Johnson County built a new building.
But there's a big long list of requirements and you have to meet every single one in order to be considered a center, even if it's not in a physical location. So I don't even know how many are on that list, but I know it's a couple pages long of like, and if you don't meet one of them, then technically you don't get the center. Title.
We started down that road, and it's just not sustainable for us here.
Yeah.
It's
It was
a very unrealistic one.
I mean, we talked about that, I don't know, maybe last winter, and it was just like the actual, to check all the boxes, to designate the Rural Access Center as a center, less important to me than the quality of what that they can do and the effectiveness of what they can do, even if that doesn't check all the boxes for the code to meet that formal designation. I would rather them put so much more of their effort into the connections that they have, and like Sheriff Tippett was talking about, the collaborations between all of the agencies is more important, and it works. I mean, it works for Benton County, so I'd rather make sure it works and put the effort into the quality than making sure that we can check all of the boxes.
Well, as we talked over the years, spending down fund balances on brick and mortar is one thing, but then after that spend down has been completed, sustaining it, paying for it, the regular annual maintenance and fees it costs.
Right.
That's where I think a county like ours, this is good, but
Yeah.
we don't want to support, Benton County doesn't want to support other brick and mortar in other counties.
Right.
So, I mean,
Which is why they have, they're able to check all the boxes, which means they have the providers on site that can bill, that ultimately pay for
sure,
themselves.
yeah,
Which
as
is
long as
what-
they're self-sustaining, I get it.
Mhm.
But, as long as they don't require the financial support of the rural counties as well, so, yeah. That's a real concern.
Sure, and we have, we this year did vote, the Regional Governing Board voted to support the access centers, not brick and mortar, but the operational costs for them for this year. We'll see what next year brings.
Yeah.
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 So, we'll see.
Personally, I don't have a problem with that scenario or that model. I don't wanna, spend brick and mortar in Dubuque County and use Benton County taxpayers to pay for it.
But I've also got some concerns about Benton County money being spent for their operational costs. I get it for a startup. I understand that, but going forth, I don't know that we want to tax our citizens to support their operations. So,
On the flip side of that, Rick, without Lindsay being licensed yet and without having the sustainability for ours, once the fund balance dollars runs out, doesn't regional money also then help kind of pay for the operational costs for Benton? So it's, obviously it's on a much smaller scale,
right,
but
Right.
I feel like some of it comes a little bit from everywhere. I could be wrong, but that's kind of,
Well,
I completely see your point, but I feel like with that, does that also open the door for, well, technically Benton County can't sustain itself, so we're not getting our money. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, there's the amount of people in the region that would be the reaction. And so,
We have a really good working relationship at the regional level with, I mean, it's worked out well in the past, I would say.
That's why we got a member of the board
Yeah,
there to kind of watch
To be
dog.
your voice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah, it's absolutely, I mean, an ebb and flow, but I feel like it's the amount.
It
Yes,
seems like
we-
Lynn, and I don't mean to pick on Lynn, but they're a bigger area and they're close to us, and there's a lot of people from Benton County work down there, they're down there, especially on the southern end of the county. Now, Iowa County goes to Iowa City, probably, more so. The county that I worry about most is Bremer. They're kinda out, I mean, they're kinda out in the middle of nowhere when it comes to our region.
I'm just, stating the concern that, we don't want to tax our citizens to death and see the majority of that money go elsewhere. So,
So I also had, on my request today to talk about fund balance. So can we transition to
Sure.
fund balance discussion? Fantastic. Just because it's September and you're not into budgeting too much yet, it won't be very long, right? Then you'll be
right.
you'll be up to your elbows, so to speak, in budgeting talks. So I'm just thinking ahead, and I just want to be proactive. I can never remember the name of the bill, and I think it might have been Senate File 690, but I also could be wrong about that. There was a bill that passed that said regions had to have their fund balances below 40% by the end of FY22. Okay, so we're in FY21. We've got one more year of your budgeting cycle for you to plan of kind of where you're at strategically with your fund balance. At the end of FY22, by December 1st of 2022, the regions will have to report to the state where we're at with our fund balance. We'll be in FY23, right? So we'll be December 1st of 22, we'll be in FY23, but it will be our FY22 expenditures and our FY22 ending fund balance. If we are above, we collectively, and we as individual counties, if we are above 40%, then the state will mandate a property tax reduction in order to spend the money to get below 40%, right? That makes sense? At the end of FY22, the state will look at collectively our fund balance. So Johnson County is our fiscal agent. Johnson County doesn't keep a whole lot. Like, we don't keep a whole lot in the fiscal agent fund balance. About 8 to 10%, I believe. I might be wrong on that, but it's pretty low. At the end of FY22, when we report to the state where we're at, we have to take the fiscal agent fund balance and divide it amongst all of the counties based on per capita. So say, for example, there's $5 million in the fiscal agent fund balance at the end of FY22. On paper, it gets divided back to Benton County based on the number of people that live in Benton County. So I'm telling you that because if you're planning ahead, that by the end of FY22, here's where we need to be with our expenditures, you might want to kind of plan to be about 38, 37%, because that fiscal agent fund balance is going to come back also. Some regions keep a lot of money in their fiscal agent, and it will impact counties a lot. We don't keep so much because we allow the fund balance projects, right? So I have, and this is all based on cash accrual, and these are estimates right now. But what Haley has reported to Deb Gard, our fiscal specialist, is that at the end of FY21, the year that we're currently in, we are estimating that you will have $812,479 in your fund balance, which equals 68.48%. So I just want to tell you, I want you to think about proactively going in. I'm never going to sit here and tell you what to do with your taxes. That's your decision. But you need to think about for FY22 that either you lower your taxes to spend that that fund balance down, or you do more projects. Projects are allowable in our region, you know, it's always been allowable. FY '22 is really gonna be the last year for, fund balance projects because of this law looming over our heads. So just want you just to kind of just put that in your head, to start thinking about it when you do budgeting, that you can choose for FY '22 to lower your taxes for the property tax relief. You can choose to do a fund balance, or it's arbitrarily going to be chosen for you by the state. And it'll actually be for FY '24. Isn't that weird? Because when we report, it'll be December 1st of '22, we're in '23, and then you'll set the budget for '24, and so it'll actually be property tax like reduction that will be mandatory for FY '24. So just I want you to keep that in mind if you've got like some ideas for fund balance projects for next year, like where you kind of need to be, and maybe it's a combination of lowering your levy and fund balance projects. You know, like I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I just want you to kind of start thinking about that.
Would her walls classify?
Yes.
That's what I was asking about the fund balance, to use that
We
for.
got approved them the last time we did that with that.
But hopefully that won't cost $250,000.
I need a new paper.
I was gonna say, I see Tracy going, well, I can't really take the materials over there with all that cash. So, yeah, so that could come out of all of that, so I wouldn't have to budget it someplace else, which would help reduce some of those
2 years
dollars.
ago, we didn't levy in mental health, and we increased other ways. And then we did a half and half this year, so.
Half
I
levy and half using the fund
Yeah.
balance. Got it. So you were, looks like you were at FY '20, the fiscal year that we just ended, cash fund balance 859, and you're anticipating, or we're anticipating that being down to 812. So you're chipping into it a little bit this year, but you'll need to chip into it even more the following
And
year.
then we didn't pay that fourth quarter payment in 19, so that was a big chunk
That's right,
too,
right,
that
right.
still cushioned our fund balance.
For
That we
FY
thought
20.
we were gonna pay.
So this is cash, so that might be down even more
Yes.
once we have the accrual, because we did the fourth quarter payment this year, right? So, that being said, and I wanna tell you, just to get you thinking ahead about it, I do know that the Legislative Policy Committee at ISAC has met, and I've heard that it's being tossed around, that one of the legislative priorities for the MHDS services that ISAC will put forth this year is an extension of that bill, that 40% fund balance, it gets extended another year out. Unfortunately, though, we're not gonna know that by the time you're doing your budgeting, right? I mean, we know the legislator doesn't always make those timely decisions on our behalf. So you're gonna need to do your budgeting when you do it, and we probably won't know. So just to think about that, we need to go into this budgeting cycle planning for that to be the reality.
Is there a cap on, so for the access point, because I know it's been unbalanced for the last 2 fiscal years, correct? So is there a cap on how many years that can?
That's up to the regional
Assist.
governing board, and our regional governing board at this point has not set a cap on that.
So they continue to have to ask for that as every year as a project then?
Correct.
Okay.
So that might,
If it is, even though it is money that has stayed local in Benton County, but because of the law that it's Fund 10, the MHDS services, all money in Fund 10 of all counties in the region, because we assigned the 2080, has to be approved by the regional governing board. The fund balance projects have traditionally been approved without much question. You know, like they trust you, that you've made the decision that it's good use of your local property tax dollars, and they trust you and they approve it. But just by law, we have to make it go through that. those
Yeah, so
steps.
it comes to you guys first, just basically say, hey, you guys okay with using these dollars for another year? And then once you guys say yes, then either Lindsay or I present to the governing board saying, we've taken it in front of our board, this is the dollars, this is what we want, and then they typically just say yes, but it starts with you guys.
Do you know when that training will be this time? CIT training? It's canceled twice
that
now,
is
right?
CIT
all
International.
Cause I
That's
know
like
we budgeted for that
$60,000 that
too,
has not been touched
so that's still
Twice.
gonna be in there.
twice.
Yeah,
That was a
that's
fund balance project.
That was
That's been carried over and
Yeah.
then,
so that's a big, like I said, it all adds up when you keep.
Absolutely, yeah, when the fund balance, and there were a lot of fund balances across the region in FY20 that didn't get spent because of the quarantine.
We did get as far this year as to have all the plane tickets, all the hotel rooms, everything was booked, everything was done, and then they canceled it.
made it farther than last year.
Yes, we did.
Why is it
Scheduled.
that?
No, we did have a couple of people that tried to do the 40-hour Zoom
Online,
of it.
yeah, oh, that's a lot,
Oh,
yeah.
I was not one of them.
How's
Hopefully
Des
it
Moines
goes
come?
next year.
Des Moines? The one county in the center of the state has its
Polk
own
County?
region. Polk County, Des Moines.
They're their own deal.
Oh, they're
But
$13 million in the hole.
How's that gonna work with the state? We're gonna
Well,
end
they
up,
did get a bailout this year.
yeah.
Yeah, they got 10 million. I don't know, they're,
Where I'm going with this is the rest of the state, as far as our region, we're not gonna have to help support them, are we?
No. No.
That's good.
that is something that I'm quite sure, you know, we as the CEO group, you know, there's 14 of us and we work really well together and we rely on each other a lot, but even despite a really good relationship, I can't imagine that any of us would agree to that, and I can't imagine that, you know, other counties would as well, so I don't really worry about that. Both counties figuring out their own Polk County issues. They got deals they're trying to work out.
It amazes me that they're always in the hole, and then, I don't know how the rest of the state is, but our region is fairly well healed. We continue to do things well, I think. But
I'm trying to always keep, you know, a 2 to 5 year lens and look forward. I don't like a whole lot of spikes up and down, you know, like let's stay steady. We need to steady a little bit down, right? Our fund balance is too high and we do need to get it down, but we're trying to just do that mindfully and you know, making sure that we're doing the right thing for our people as well as balancing, you know, back to that fiscal responsibility goal. You know, our responsibility is to our taxpayers equally as it is to the people who need our support.
actually, I think that this local, well, it's the first one in the state, I think it's doing a good job, and I think it's on the ground, meeting the people's needs more so than the region. You know, I don't know how I really want to say this, but let's say there's somebody in northwest Benton County, for example, and they end up going down to Cedar Rapids. There's a good chance they're not going to get the services they need. I mean, at least it's not going to be as easy for them as it would be for someone that lives across the street.
And which is why, you know, I put that in there in the priority initiatives that we explore adding at least one more access point in the region, because local support, you know, it's about the relationships. And Sheriff Tippett said the same. It's about relationships and people knowing where to go and who to help and people working together. So yeah, it's a great model.
I really think I think we're way out in front of the cutting edge, I mean, with this access center here. I really do. I think it's a great thing. Ron's worked at that really on his own for the most part, or I shouldn't say on his own, but it wouldn't have happened without him.
I had a simple idea, and that's where the simple stopped. Way
Because
out
that
of
one
my-
access wall.
Way out of my wheelhouse.
Is there anything else we have for her or questions? Really appreciate you coming in today and kind of
Yeah,
giving us an update
Sorry it's
And,
been so long since I've been here, but
Well,
we
I
couldn't
find it
travel for a while.
very interesting to find the information out as far as an estimate for fiscal year 22 as far as the fund balance
Yeah,
and percentage. So
Yeah.
got
it was really important to me that I
Yeah.
came in the fall to be able to have the discussion, because I don't want you guys to get to February
yeah.
and be like, oh gosh.
I was done
We gotta
with
think
it
about
anyway, but you know.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, exactly. Haley would have taken care of it, I'm sure, but I also just kind of wanted to get it in your mind, start thinking
Well,
about it.
thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Mona.
Yes. And Haley, I talked to the doctor yesterday, so I'll email you an update on the whole
Okay.
knee scenario.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Mike, I appreciate you coming back down after going upstairs there.
It was educational, let me tell you.
Was it?
You guys
Well-
hanging around with something up there?
Dave Thompson stopped by, and so we got his input on this too. So I'm not sure, you guys tell me kind of where you want to start and stop on this, but the thought was in conjunction with what Julie was saying. So I've got 3 mics on here.
Which she was talking for.
Right, she's talking 4, so we looked at that, and I think that that probably is a better way to go. One, there's one on each of the attorney tables, as she mentioned, one for the witness, one for the judge.
Mhm.
So it puts us at 4. Dave had requested a auxiliary audio input into the speaker system that we would be installing. What that's for is if there's an audio recording or something on a video and you want to extract the audio portion of that and make that audible on those speakers, can they do that? And the answer is yes, we should be able to on the equipment we're putting in. A little bit of effort on our end, but we should be able to do that. His thought is the way that the jurors are set now clear in the back, that way they have to make sure they can hear the audio if there's someone has a case and they have to present audio for that case. So that'd be something I'd have to add if we want to. The volume controls, the volume part of that, right now I've got it on one zone, just raise the volume up and down. Again, there was a request as to whether or not we wanted to put in a second volume control for the back to isolate the back half of the courtroom from the front. As far as the wiring portion of this, everyone seemed to kind of check off on it. Justin, we went through with him. Looks like I can do it easy enough. I wasn't sure what I was going to get into, so I think I've got a pretty good handle on that part of it. We're going to put everything in, when I say everything, the equipment, I'm going to have a small equipment stack. It'll be, as you're facing the judge, the bench, it'll be in the closet room to the left. So I'm going to penetrate right through the wall, come straight down with a wire raceway, and we're going to put a shelf or a rack of some type right there. Going to make it at a height easy enough that people can turn buttons on and off, that kind of thing. So that part looks simple enough. Also, a thought was brought up that what about having a spare one of these kits on hand? The thought there was if you get into a case and a spare microphone kit, if you get into a case, a mic quits working, they want to be able to have another one. To me, the darn things are portable. You can move them from desk to desk, but I don't know if that infringes on any distancing measures you have to maintain or not. I'm not sure on that part of it. But if it's, to me, I think the attorney desks could share if they had to, something like that.
How much are they?
You're gonna have about $1,000 in the kit. So it's a microphone and a kit, or a receiver kit combined.
I bet that'd go over real well with attorneys sharing the mic. So, yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
So,
so I don't know if it's a, you know, again, I didn't, you know, I can do that however we want to. I can put it as an option on the bottom if we want to do that.
yeah, I could see having backup. I honestly could. And, you know,
There may be a less expensive route on that. That's the puck style. We could do something that's handheld, but again, now you're back into the touching and handling stuff. The mics as they are, you're gonna have a push button, a simple button. You are gonna have to press to talk. But you know, we don't want to go away from that. We don't want just continuous open mic.
yeah.
That could be a disaster.
Toys R Us is closed. We're not gonna be able to go get a Mr. Microphone. So, you know.
From a wiring standpoint, if I add, or adding the fourth mic in, right now I've got 3 on the quote.
Right.
Add the fourth one. Well, the wiring itself, I think I got about 1,250 to 1,400 in there. For the wiring, that includes the wire, labor, mounting speakers.
That's what you currently have in your quote.
No, that's what I would need
Okay.
in
Is
addition
that
to
for the labor portion or just the wiring of?
the labor and the material to install the
Okay.
wiring. Wiring from the concrete wall, raceway, all that stuff.
So an additional 1,250 to 1,400.
Yeah,
And then the 68.92 on the original quote, that was for only 3 mics.
correct.
So it'll be another $1,000 on top of that yet, correct?
Yes, right. So that brings, that extras total would be about 2215 to 2365, depending on that range. And then, but I think I'm pretty close on my wiring, labor and what I need for that.
So what's the total package then?
That bumps us up 9,100, 91 to 93 roughly.
Okay.
And that's without a spare. That's the 4 operational ones. Now, again, you know, it's a good thought. I don't know, you know, maybe it's a case where you get a year down the road and say, hey, we want a spare. I mean, this is something that can be added anytime, you know, or if you think that is important right away, you know, I don't know.
I guess. What I'm thinking is that spare ain't ever gonna get used. It's gonna be just sitting there. And how long is this expected to last?
Well, the microphones themselves, I mean, barring someone dropping them, you know, it is a concrete floor, so it gets bumped off on the table or something like that, you know, that's gonna shorten life expectancy. Otherwise, I mean, these darn things should last years. I mean, you gotta get, you know, 3 to 5 years anyhow out of just regular usage. Probably longer than that. You know, it's not, I don't know how many hours and hours endlessly that it gets used, but it looks like it's not continual use. So I would think you gotta get a number of years out of them. Again, barring someone knocking something off, you know, something like that.
The next,
What I would do is just get 4 of them, and then if we see we need another one, maybe next year get one.
on the 9100, these are the ones that use the AA batteries.
Correct.
4 of them probably, or 6.
It's either 2 or 4. I don't remember offhand. But it's either 2 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how long do you estimate they run? You know what I mean? I'm looking at court, not for sure, but I'm 4 hours a day maybe. Would you say, you guys, when they have court in session, that they be on?
Depends what type of court.
Yeah.
Sometimes a jury trial, big one will go a couple days.
Well, I don't wanna buy stock in Rayovac.
And that's actually, that's a really good point, because so published, they say, what they say is 8 hours continuous use.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're on and off, so when you're not using it, it goes to standby mode. So you should be getting, you know, closer to, you know, 12 to 20 hours, depending on how much usage you're actually using to transmit back and forth. So I press the talk, that's where you're gonna get the usage and the transmission.
Maybe quote the rechargeable versus the.
Yeah, that's what I was, and then as the rechargeable ones, do they have to come out of the base, or can you just plug the charger into the speaker base without,
The bases go back to a charger.
oh, and you just drop them in?
Yeah.
Awesome, that's the ones that we're gonna go.
That would make some sense, but you may need to have some backup batteries, because those
Which we could
rechargeable
get
batteries
we could get spare packs.
don't last forever.
No, they don't, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping
and
that
might
this
be-
doesn't
Yeah.
last forever either.
Well, unfortunately, once it's in, it's probably gonna stay.
You might.
You know, I can see that happening.
So, with that said, at this point, you want me to revise this and see what an upgrade option or a change would be if I look at the rechargeable battery packs?
Would that be better than giving him a blank check?
Well, I think, if you'd get this back to us for next week, would you?
Yeah, should be able to.
Next Tuesday?
Yeah,
And you wouldn't actually have to come up here. You just back with the Haley and
sure.
we
Okay.
pretty well got this talked over and,
Yeah.
So, because I don't see a problem here.
Well, at least getting
The only
that,
thing-
if he wants to get it scheduled so that we could be on their calendar too,
I
right?
think
well,
we
you're only
should-
gonna move it up a week. You know what I mean, from today. Be a week difference.
Which I can at least let her know. Krista that does our scheduling, I can let Krista know. And she can at least, have it.
We're leaning it. You can, I think, take the Jets here today.
Well, I would say get it on the schedule,
Yeah,
and if something happens, we go off the schedule.
yeah.
I mean, that's the worst that could happen.
Right.
But I think just get it on the schedule, get us what the final price would be with rechargeable batteries and those bases for
Yeah.
charging,
Yeah.
yes. I think that's a good idea. That way we
There's
don't
no
have to
reason
change
to
batteries.
put it on the schedule.
Yeah, we're already on the schedule. We can approve it then next week and get the ball rolling.
And then forego the spare one for now. Just wait on that and then see if,
I think so.
And then the other thing that the county attorney wanted, that extra
The audio,
audio, you don't have that in there, right?
no, I don't. I
Good.
don't have that in.
and did you include the extra volume control?
I did put that in that number I gave you. I did not do the audio feed, but I did do the volume controls in there. Make sure I had that in a rack.
Okay, so, yeah,
Well, I look at the audio feed, like I said, if he's playing a CD or something, that'll be on a TV anyway, and that's got its own volume, don't it? I don't know, but I'm just,
He mentioned currently they're using laptops, but they use a laptop, he said, and then plug a speaker into that. And so that's where he wondered if, rather than carrying that device or devices in, if he could have a cord just to plug into the audio system,
which would make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
If you've got, but with law enforcement, if they've got, their recordings, from their mics on them, that you wouldn't be watching on TV, but
how about this? Put on your bid or estimate for next week, bottom line, what that extra would
Yeah.
cost. And then we'll
Okay.
make a decision then.
sure, with
Okay.
or without audio.
Right. I'll option that. I'll just put that as an option on the bottom for
Yes.
the audio part.
Yeah,
So now this also brings up the system itself is relatively easy to use.
Yeah.
It's a couple on-off buttons and a volume knob, and that's essentially what it is. When I start to introduce things like the audio feed, that cable, that can add a little complexity, not necessarily in the operation of everything. It's just another volume knob and a cord, but there's certain practices on how that needs to be. So So meaning if I plug in a live audio feed into a plug and it's hot, there's a potential, to damage speakers when that happens. And so I don't mind doing something like that, but there's going to be some training involved, and I don't know that we're always going to be able to control who is plugging and unplugging things. So I have some reservations with that. Now there may be ways to do this wirelessly, like with Bluetooth or something like that, and that would be, to me, a better alternative than having a hot cord that I'm plugging and unplugging. And I can still, option that, on the bottom, so you can at least take a look and then maybe do something that way. Most tablets and laptops are going to have a Bluetooth capability anyway. Sure. So it might be something that might be a little bit better route. I didn't discuss that with Dave as he was in and out, but
Well, that makes sense.
that way you just avoid,
Running something.
This equipment has been around for a while.
Yeah.
And I understand that things are constantly changing, but you wouldn't think that this would be outdated in 2 years' time and be where you can't get parts or anything.
Okay. Yeah, now that's, well, I guess I'd answer it two ways. One is no, I don't think we have an issue with the system itself. This kind of stuff's been around forever. It's a 70-volt platform. We've been doing this stuff for decades. So that's not an issue. One thought that came up though in discussion, and Julie had mentioned the possibility of wanting to do some streaming of cases, video streaming. And if we do that, I need to, I kind of got to know, because this audio stuff is great standalone, should be a workhorse, should last a long time on the speaker and the audio side. If I want to do something with integrating video streaming, and we're going to stream court cases or something, then that's a little bit different gear, and I'd want to do something different on the audio amplifier side. There's some other components we want to put in. Now that's a whole different can, you're opening up. We're doing one right now that's actually like that up in, oh shoot, just forgot the name, Walk On, for the city there, but you're getting into 3 times the cost on stuff like that when you start adding the video streaming and a bunch of other electronics to do that stuff. So not opposed to looking at it, send it out as a budget thing, but that's where we could get in a little bit of a redundant piece of hardware that I would have to change out, and that'd be on the mic side. I'd want to change that for something different if we're going to go that route down the road.
Well, if we're looking at 3 times the money, I don't know that we'd want to do that.
Yeah. So again, it was mentioned, I thought I'd just bring it up, see what you guys think. But as far as longevity here, no issues on that. In fact, the question was posed upstairs as well. If we don't, I think 6 speakers is going to be fine, which is what we have in here currently. I don't see that being an issue. If for some reason we have an area that we can't hear well, then this is wired in series, and I just add another speaker. So it's not, speakers are $100.
Sure.
So it's not, it's not a big problem that way. So I don't feel like that's a problem.
What's the warranty on the 90 days,
On the
20 speakers?
No, those will be at least a year.
Okay.
I don't remember if
Okay.
those are more than that.
Okay.
Now, labor-wise, so the materials are all covered for at least a year on
Okay.
any of this.
Yep.
Labor-wise, we usually do that for 180 days, but we could extend that too. So that's not. Yeah, I'm not too worried about that side of it, to be honest. Now there's
I
one.
would put that on your quote then.
I'll put that in there. There is one thing to this that, in looking at it, so I don't know if you guys are how familiar you are with the room itself, but there's a tray that essentially has some reflective lighting inside of the tray. So our speaker wire, we would intend to go in that tray and the speakers would mount inside the tray, so they're not visible, so we keep the aesthetics the way they are, and then just reflect the sound off of that. I think that's gonna be fine. Worst case would be is if we go up on the top of the tray, we have to mount on the top, and the speakers inward towards the courtroom. Now, the potential issue is, I don't know what the electrical wiring is, how that's routed up in that tray. I just have to maintain some separation, and we don't have a ladder or means to get up there right now. That would be the only thing that could possibly pop out that I see, just in how the wiring would have to be routed. I have to keep separation from the electric lines, just so we don't get a hum across those speakers. Justin wasn't sure, and he'd actually never been up in there to know how deep it is, how that wiring's routed.
You don't know what you don't
No,
know.
it is what it is. To me, if this, either way, I mean, if the electric's kind of on one end, if it's loose, we'll push it to the other. If it's at pipe, we'll go to the opposite side. I think we should be okay. I don't see it really being a problem, but that's the only thing that I've seen that looks a little bit, possible hiccup. So.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that was all the conversation notes. Dave did ask if we could set the system up, the entire system, as a demo before we permanently attach it. I'm not a big fan of that, but I can do whatever you guys want. So,
I would think he wants to know how the speakers are gonna be, I would think.
yeah,
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, if we put a speaker here and that you got 6 of them, gosh, I think that would work great. But
I can get where he's coming from, that we're spending this money,
yes,
we're gonna make it better.
right.
But I
That's,
mean, this is your business. You should know
yeah,
where to put the
definitely
speakers.
it's gonna work, or it's on the shady side, and
and that's where I think it relieves some of his concern when, if I can just add another speaker easy enough, I think that's, the indirect part of it, we're up a little ways, and I think we're probably about 13 feet at that tray roughly. So we'll have a little bit, but it's gonna be a pretty quiet setting. I don't see there being a lot of ambient background noise going on. People are just listening. We'll be able to turn the volumes up to where we need to. Now, there are some differences in volume as people talk into the mics. So that could be a difference, and that's where that volume, if the folks clear in the back, I guess that very far back row on a wall, which I guess would be, I don't know if that was
Should be the north
wall, yeah. So, if someone in the witness stand is very quiet, talking to the mic or something, but otherwise I don't see an issue.
Sure.
With where we're at there. Yeah.
I presume there's, for hearing impaired people, I presume there's a headset available.
Yeah, I don't have that in here.
No, I get it. I understand.
But there are what they call listen-in devices of different types, and that kind of thing could be procured, and that could be added in. I think with the speaker arrangement as it is, I think we'll be okay on that. But certainly that would be something we could. We've got situations too where we can always, again, add a speaker in a specific area, and if we have someone that's, more in that category, we can always ask them maybe to sit in a certain spot. We could control that separately too if we wanted. So.
Okay. Get him over there like the RCA dog.
Well, yeah. Otherwise, you get into those devices. Now you're back to touching things, and they have their own separate, pack and all that.
Sure.
So that can be, problematic, I guess, given the age we're in. So.
Sure. I know that the theater, for example, they've got headsets for some of the elderly that cannot hear very well.
our church does too.
Does it? Yeah. So,
Yeah, churches, you see that.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a bridge we can always cross.
Yeah. Okay, so I will update this. I'll make sure I have the 4 my kits on there. I will have the other items I talked about. I'll include the wiring components in this, so you've got it, and then I'll put an option on there if we want to do for the audio feed in there, and I'll just include that as an option on the bottom.
This
And
is the
then,
one you get prior.
I'm sorry.
This is the one that you get prior with it.
well, I'll do a wireless version.
Wireless?
I'll do a
Okay.
Bluetooth,
Yeah.
Okay,
audio.
not, yeah, I don't want the one that you
No, it won't be a hot
can,
cord.
okay, good. Yeah, I don't want
Yeah, the
that.
one that would be blue.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
He had mentioned just a hot cord, but I got thinking of it afterwards. I'd rather not do that. It would be less expensive just having that cord like that, but I'd rather do something that's gonna be safer.
Yeah, mistakes can happen.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything else you guys would like to
Actually,
see?
you might
I'll make
as well
sure.
just figure it in, hadn't you, instead of just making it an option.
No, I
No, I'll
like
put
to
it
see
Like,
it separate.
see,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll put it on the bottom, and then I'll include, I will include the warranty durations. So you've got those. And then I will switch it to the rechargeable ones. And
Mhm.
the base,
Right.
charging base.
all right.
Is there anything else?
Should do it.
Probably after you get it installed.
I'll put act on this next week.
Yeah,
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
okay. But yeah, like Pete said, you don't need to show up if you don't want to,
Okay.
just want us to.
I'll just email that over
Yeah.
to you.
That'd be great. Appreciate you doing this, Mike.
No, you bet, guys. I appreciate that. I wasn't sure how long your meeting was. I was like, well, I'll try to get back down there. We adjourn. Okay, if there's anything else, I think you've got my email. So if there's something else you think of, just, shoot me a note or give me a shout, and then we'll make an adjustment or add whatever we need to. So
Okay.
I think we've got it otherwise.
Sounds good.
And there was power up there. So we've got AC power at the rack location where we're gonna be, so that's not an issue either, because we don't have an extra expense for that, so we're good. None of our stuff requires any remote power or anything. We were powered from the rack, so. Okay,
Sounds
all right, thank
wonderful.
you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yep, you bet. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, we've kind of ran out of items on the list, unless you got anything else.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Anything you need on for next week?
I have the COVID update again, right?
Right. All right. All those in favor of adjournment,
Aye.
please say aye.
All right.
Aye.